Um, my name is, not that it's relevant, but my name is Patricia Gilligan, and I live at number 3, Henry Street, Leichhardt. Leichhardt is in the inner west, very controlled suburb of the inner west section of the city, the capital city of Sydney, which is the capital city of the very large country of Australia. It's just a small little group of basically government-controlled units. When I say government-controlled, that means that you pay rent to the government to live there, and they, will have control over, where you live. But that's out in the open and above board, except that I think that everything is kind of controlled that way in the inner west section of the city of Sydney. But of course the whole city would have, this control going anyway, I would think. It's just that I am not always in any other part, not being very limited in my travelling, shall we say, in my life, and even in these last remaining few years of my earthly existence, shall we say. Obviously I make these recordings and have done a few videos in the past saying that we are spiritual beings in a physical body, and that our thought creates reality, and that we should really be connected only to other spiritual beings rather than to either technical beings or technology, only in the sense that it doesn't benefit a normal spiritual human being to, when I say normal, there's nothing normal in the reality anyway, because we're all mind controlled or physically controlled. Physically controlled by the environment around you, because it's largely a technical reality around you. In other words, most human beings use technology to communicate and to control the area where they are. So it's like that. That's the way cities have gone and have probably always been, except that technology means that human beings on the ground, shall we say, as opposed to the powers that be, in other words, those that secretly control the world, or even if you want to go to another level. But going to another level, in other words, to a level outside of Earth, is not something that I do, even though I acknowledge its reality, but I don't experience it. I'm a limited, average human being. And I think most human beings are like that, some more than others. If the matrix around you, or the control system around you, or the beings around you that use technology to combine and control the area expose themselves to you, whether accidentally or intentionally, once they do it accidentally, then they will not hide it because they know that you already know, which is understandable, isn't it? But either way, I'm not going to ramble here too much. I'll leave the demigods of the internet to keep their control. When I say that, because the internet and a computer system is technology. Anything that's technology is basically to control humanity, I would think, and this is what I see. And it makes sense anyway, because why otherwise would you have technology? Why would you have a computer system if not to control human beings? It all just depends on whether you think that control is a benefit for you or is secretly working against you. That's what you have to, I guess, think about. But then again, you'll be forced to use it anyway. It will become a necessary evil even if you think it is working not in your benefit. Because, I mean, the world, you know, if you think about it another way, the world worked perfectly well without a computer system. I mean, in other words, you still had your needs met. You still could function. You could communicate with other people. Do I need to communicate with people on the other side of the world? That I don't know. I'm doing that now, although actually I'm not, because my particular recordings are not received for some reason. But even if they were, and could be, it would be to a limited few number of people that may or may not be like-minded or spiritual human beings, because the only reason I'm pointing this out is because, you know, you do have different personality types even amongst human beings, and your personality determines your actions and your thoughts about other people. So non-spiritual human beings tend to not get on with and tend to want to control spiritual human beings because they probably see them as not in line with their technological control, I suppose, even though you may not care about it. Like, I don't speak for it, but I don't physically oppose it because I accept that it's now a reality that can't be stopped. Once you bring in technology, any form of mechanical assistance for a human being, it's never going to be rejected. It's always going to then advance further. So I accept the cyborg reality that is now. And some people say the future, but it's actually now. It's just that it still looks natural. Everything is like pretending that it's still a real random natural earth, when in reality most cities and most of the earth is technically under a control system. And that control system is controlled by a different species or kind of human being, only in the sense that if you have different minds in human bodies, then they are different species or different kinds of human beings. If you have a psychopathic mind in the body of a human being, but that psychopathic mind pretends to be a real human being, and even if it just looks like a real human being, and in order to survive naturally, psychopaths pretend to be more human than what they actually are, because we know that psychopathic types of people don't care about humanity or any life, really. They are very, they see everything as all the same, I'm told. So basically they don't distinguish. And we can all relate to that in a funny kind of way, in the sense that I can like, you know, a doll if I put my own ideas onto the doll and think that the doll is real, because human beings use their imagination. Imagination is the human being's, it's like what they are, but at the same time, in this reality, your imagination can be used for and against you. Just as I can use that for and against me, because if I imagined the doll to be more real, if I put my own personality and my own ideas onto the doll, and then believe that doll actually is life, because my imagination has given that doll the personality, whilst being in the physical appearance of the doll that I may relate to or just find pleasing in some way. Or maybe it's just an easier way of living than dealing with the complication of, the real human beings, because real human beings, particularly as most human beings will mainly deal with the more artificial types of human beings. In other words, those that are not spiritual human beings. That's assuming you are a spiritual human being, because like I'm saying, every human being will have a different want or need and will see things differently. I mean, I could go into it personally, but I won't, because I'll leave the android demigods of the computer matrix system to do that. They will be your imitation, pretend human versions of life. In other words, the pretend persons on the human internet will not really be real spiritual human beings. They will be your pretend androgyne beings. And I emphasize these things even though they're important, but they're also, in some respects, maybe not getting to the heart of it, shall we say, or not putting it right down to simply what it really is, because it's difficult for me to do that, because I'm a limited mind-controlled human being. And even though I have been just what you'd call a normal, not normal, but a neurotic, normal, limited, suppressed human being most of my life, in the sense that you suppress yourself. In other words, you haven't lived your life to its full. You haven't gotten anywhere. You haven't done the things that you should have done or wanted to do. You've always encountered the wrong people. You've always, and this is largely because it's a control system too. But it's also because you have to realize at some point that you still interact with those wrong people. So you interact with the psychopaths instead of the real human beings, because they seduce you, they offer more interest. You put more imagination onto these beings because they know how to play you better. Whereas a normal human being probably seems as though they're not much. Whereas in reality, they're the only ones that can really not cause you a problem, and may, even if you're lucky, benefit you or be to where you can live a better life in this very difficult, very controlled reality. Like I say, essentially, a human being's mind is controlled by the reality, because the human thought contributes to reality, because this reality is about using human thought to keep a human being under control and therefore serving the earth. But maybe not always serving it to where it benefits you. All this depends on what type of person you are or what type of human being you are. And the only reason I'm making this recording very late of a night is, one, because it's quiet and there are no interruptions, because normally I would be hardly able, I find it very hard to function once the sun comes up, because that's when the matrix and the patrol control system around me does come into action. And it's intrusive because it's loud, it's distracting, it's mind controlling the way that the beings try to get your attention, distract you from yourself, and even just performing simple tasks. And the reason for this is because they seem to want you to be very limited and suppressed, while they take all your mind from you, all your imagination, all your good thinking. But they restrict my body in reality so that I can't live a life. That's a very difficult thing for me to understand, but I see it happening. The internet takes all my thoughts and ideas and all my creative thinking and lets the demigods utilize it for their benefit. That's what human beings, particularly those that think a lot, that have a strong imagination. Most spiritual human beings probably would, but even just the reality that I think the other types of human beings, or the other type of human being that is a lot more intellectual but not human, in other words, it's advanced artificial intelligence, basically. And that is just the only way that I can use words to describe it. You'd have to say that anyone who is all intellect but have no humanity, in other words, they don't care about anything real or any life, and they're very only into, they're like a machine intellectual being that is an intellectual survival machine being that only wants its basic needs met and will sort of, do anything to keep that going. And they're sort of, the old saying, isn't it, the end justifies the means. They will sort of do anything just for their own body to survive, which is normal for all species and all races of beings. That's normal and understandable and even commendable. It's just that some beings take it to an extreme level of where, as you know, they will do things to get their needs met, but their needs are very extreme. They're not like basic human needs, like a normal human being that just needs food, clothing and shelter for survival. They will be extremely detailed-minded about what they consider survival, which is a psychopathic mentality, I'm told, because I've studied a million videos on the internet and YouTube to try to understand the mindset of the beings that I see and encounter daily. But this is only after intimate personal interaction, where I was shown a textbook analysis of the mindset of these beings. So then I realised that, you know, it'd be like being married to a psychopath and then realising that it's not just the person you're married to, it's a lot of other people around too. And so then you know that you have to try to understand what they're thinking or how they function in order for you to survive, or try to survive, because you don't know how to deal with their mind, because they are so mind controlling and so fixated on controlling you, as we're told that the psychopath and these types of beings, these types of psychopathic types of human beings are very much about control. In fact, it's their sole purpose, survival and control. They see them as going hand in hand, evidently. They don't think that they can survive unless they control individual human beings that they encounter or that are around them. And then that becomes a problem for the human being, because the individual, normal, although very, very suppressed and neurotic human being, will not understand this, but also won't be seeking to control them, even though they will evidently think that I'm trying to control them, because they project their own mindset. As you know, a lot of people, in fact most people probably, tend to think that other people share similar thoughts with them. This was a common belief that I had, which is not true now, I see. Unfortunately, after 60 odd years, I now realise this is the sad truth, that it is not the case. But at any rate, this video just come up. The internet is both a control system and a patrol system. It is transhumanism. My thoughts are directed onto the computer screen, through the technology, through the Wi-Fi, through the internet, whatever the technology is, I don't know, but I only know that you see your own thoughts being projected onto the screen, and then what I call the demigods, because they're they're like your world stage ones that control the internet. They may control openly the world as well in the various fields, such as entertainment, or the power of the world. Your top people, those that a lot of people have heard of and that have influence and power and control one way or the other. You can have power and control through influence, or you can have power and control directly through the laws of the land, as they call it, and the systems that operate in the cities and the earth. It's very hard to explain all this, but essentially most of what is on the computer system is part of the patrol control system, because they try to, I think, suppress the real spiritual human beings, or those that are not totally technical in nature, or those that don't try to control everyone and everything around them, put basically. But I'm just going to, this little thing came up, this little internet thing came up, so I'm going to put it here. Hopefully I can get it in. Hopefully I can get it in. It says banned book, but of course it's not really banned. because the demigods of the internet will tell you, be the only ones that are allowed to express the truth. Even in the, what we call the, I think they call them the niche areas or the limited areas of the internet. In other words, where you have what we call conspiracy theories or conspiracy possibilities, I guess. But they're not possibilities, most is a reality. But they control it because, you know, it's like that, isn't it? Am I getting this in or not? Probably not. Probably not, because why am I saying that I'm see, we have the three here. We have spiritual, mental, and material. The I'm guessing that the androids are mental and material, or material usually, but material usually, I hope I'm still recording, I'm not sure. Material and mental, but, you know, whereas the spiritual is like, you know, a real human being, whereas the others are the android, artificially intelligent human being, which would be material and mental, but also spiritual, like I'm just as much material, mental and spiritual. Mainly messed up and mind controlled and, you know, not able to function. But, you know, spiritual simply means that you want to, well, like I say, most would be not able to, like, fulfill or live the life that you want, because I mean, if I want to do something spiritual, then I have to have some material to do that. So, you know, it's just a mindset. It's like the psychopathic android being will use the material and the mental, probably not usually use it to, you know, will we just be using it for their own survival in a very, very confined, self-serving way, shall we say. Just as the internet demigods use the videos to serve themselves, so they get the, you know, the material and the mental benefits from the videos. So the truth is always told by these ones. Even low, they will be telling you about the spiritual and the mental, and I don't know if I'm making a lot of sense here even, but I am saying that it is an end-time deception game in the earth, whichever way you look at it. So, so I don't think that, I think that because of many, or just even as what they call a fail-safe, that means is like the final defense. And I heard the word firewall used the other day, And I guess that means like the final firewall or defense is like a firewall. That means it's a wall of fire that a human being can't get through to see the truth, because you can't walk through fire to get to the other side to see the real truth. So the internet and these beings are a firewall from giving you the truth, but still being a firewall from keeping, a human being that wants to be human, wants to be, or even just doesn't want to do whatever it takes for their own survival, because these beings see a human being, because they are filled with the spirit of narcissism, of the god of this world. They basically, for what I experience, they see your every move, just your existence almost, as something to be, as a challenge to their sense of what they are, kind of thing. So they take offence at nothing, and they get, what we call the little green man, little petty jealousy of nothing most of the time. They see everything as trying to, that's their idea of survival, which is a psychopathic, narcissistic, personality disordered android type of being. This is the three types of humans. But really, it's three types only if you think that you have AI, artificial intelligent android survival machine being, which is, you don't want to say that it's all material, because it's mental and it's material, and it pretends to be spiritual usually, because that's the firewall, that's the end game deception, that's the end game deception. That's the end game deception, is that the final firewall is that the these beings, which are really material, these beings which are really material and mental only, will pretend to be spiritual or a real human being, but essentially they are only mental and material. That's why this it says here, banned book reveals three types of humans. But the banned book is just, I think it's the knowledge, the knowledge book. The banned book is the knowledge book. It's the knowledge book. Some people might have names, spiritual names, or even just religious names for these things, but that's all just, that's where you have a lot more knowledge. But for myself, being not very knowledgeable through my life, that becomes too complicated for me. But I just say it as I see it, as it comes to light or comes onto the internet, because as a human being becomes more aware of these things, due to the surroundings closing in around you, or showing itself to you, in other words, the true reality of the different species. So you have like a spiritual race, mental race, and a material race of human being. And the end game deception is that these three species, these different types of human beings,